Got back from Indy. I just flew back from Indy, and boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah. You're supposed to take an Indy car back.
Ah,
Vroom, vroom.
yes. Let's get into it.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
5 major takeaways from the NFL Scouting Combine, and we are here to talk about it. Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom on the Audible. And my first takeaway, Michael Penix is back in the first round conversation. Now, from what I've heard, Bloom, the New England Patriots are high on Jayden Daniels. And it's so funny hearing New England information. But without Belichick, the information there flows a little differently. So they're high on Jayden Daniels. If Washington, with Adam Peters, takes Jayden Daniels, which they should, that means New England's open to trading back. And then that means they're open to trading back into the end of the first round for Michael Penix, who did an outstanding job at the drills. We know he was going to do that. He's got elite arm talent. He answered my question about his work ethic, which is good. It's positive. So good day at the podium. Great day on the field. He arguably was the best thrower of all things at the scouting combine. Michael Penix, once thought as a mid-second at best, now could be one of those, Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson, end of the first guys.
Yeah, and I think that he took advantage of a storyline that we talked about going into the combine season, which is the top 3 quarterbacks to not throw. Now, that left room for McCarthy to be the quarterback who stole the show, but McCarthy is turning more into an eye of the beholder kind of prospect. Now, those kind of quarterback prospects can still go very, very high in the draft. And see, you try to put all these pieces together, right? Benjamin Solak, who's awesome at the Ringer, saying, hey, I'm getting feeling that maybe Jayden Daniels is not the number 3 quarterback. Maybe it's McCarthy. There could be teams that prefer McCarthy. Ted Nguyen at The Athletic doing incredible work saying, well, the film shows that maybe Daniels is more projectable, but Drake May has more of the qualities of the kind of pocket passers that hit. And then you have this conversation about Michael Penix that is mainly, I'm seeing driven, at least in the media, by Bruce Feldman. And Bruce Feldman is saying some stuff like, I heard he might run in 40 in the 4.4s. I don't know about that. I don't know if Michael Penix is a 4.4 40 guy, but there's talk that the medicals came back, very encouraging. And like you said, Cease, that the taste that the Michigan game left in our mouth kind of overshadowed everything he did to put himself in the first round conversation before that game. And maybe he got people focused on those qualities again. And the other thing, of course, is if you take a quarterback in the late first round, you can, Jordan Love, you can actually be patient. You can actually develop a quarterback the way they're supposed to. So that alone can increase their chances of hitting. So absolutely, Cease, I think you're right that Michael Penix is the quarterback who has come out of the combine, maybe doing the most for his draft stock.
Yeah, and I would say this: anyone saying Jayden Daniels isn't the number 2 quarterback isn't. I don't want to be mean.
Number 2, maybe not the number 3.
Well, no. Let me finish.
Yeah.
I want to be kind because you were kind to the people you were talking about. He's the number 2 quarterback, okay, and not for my rankings. My rankings, he's number 1. But evaluators, these are decision makers like coaches, GMs, scouts, executives, even some owners. Jayden Daniels is not seen as the number 3 or number 4 quarterback. He's the number 2 quarterback. So I want to set that out there. And,
but to be fair, all that matters is what
draft.
Washington thinks. All that matters is what Washington, when it comes to Daniels, all
Guess
that matters is what Washington thinks. Yeah.
All that matters is what Adam Peters thinks.
Exactly.
What am I telling you? Okay. Look, all right. Michael Penix, yay. JJMcCarthy, I believe it was our dear friend Daniel Jeremiah said an acquired taste. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Podium crushed it. He meditates, which is big for me. Maybe I need to meditate more, Bloom. I feel stress.
Slow down.
Coming back from Indianapolis.
Slow life. Yeah.
It would be nice to have that. On the field, JJMcCarthy made enough of the throws. Out routes still take some time to get there. There was one evaluator I talked to compared him to Andy Dalton. It's not great, Bob. Others say maybe like Drew Brees. Well, Drew Brees, a high second-round pick, and spoiler alert, Dane Brugler, who we consider to be the best when it comes to overall draft, of course, right up there with Matt Waldman, and Matt doing skill position players, Dane doing all players. Dane Brugler's doesn't have a first-round grade on him, just like me. I don't have a first-round grade on JJ McCarthy. He doesn't have a first-round grade on JJ McCarthy. Now, it's a high second, and as you mentioned, Bloom, it only takes one team.
Well, because he put him 7th to Minnesota in his mock draft that he just put out.
Yes, and in fact, he might go higher than that. I could see quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3. I could see the quarterbacks being Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, JJ McCarthy for the Broncos. So let's keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and again, number 7 to Minnesota, and that's not where Minnesota is slated to pick. Tennessee is supposed to have the 7th pick.
Right.
So you're right, Cease. And I think that the more we hear, the less we know, except the pattern is 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. You're seeing that a lot in mock drafts that are coming out now. And I think that, like you said, Cease, acquired taste, I said, per Daniel Jeremiah, I said, I the beholder. But that's the position where teams talk themselves into players. And even just looking at, Jordan Reed's mock has it Williams made Daniels, McCarthy going number 11 to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. We're waiting to see what is going to happen with Kirk Cousins. And I think that, we want to talk about takeaways from the combine. And it's not from the combine. Lance Zierlein, Caleb Williams, he has Jayden Daniels number 2, wink, wink. Drake May, number 3 to New England. J.J. McCarthy, number 9 to Denver in a trade. So you see the pattern here that wherever McCarthy goes, it's maybe going to be a team that is on the beauty side of the eye of the beholder, and they're going to want to trade up to do it because, well, if they see that projectability, they're going to want that. But Kirk Cousins, if we come out of Indy with this idea that Cousins is the coveted quarterback of the free agent class, and while Justin Fields is not technically a free agent, he is the one that is not coveted, and we may have to wait as much as the Bears want to. They say they want to get him traded by March 13th. They might have to wait for somebody to want to trade for Justin Fields.
Well, it was amateur hour at the combine. 1, it's tough to get a badge, and then 2, there's like 1,500 media members. And there was somebody running around throwing 99-mile-an-hour fastballs. There's your baseball reference, Bloom. At Caleb Williams, right off the bat. Caleb Williams' first question was, are you afraid to compete?
Right.
Okay. Now, is that a thought process for some? Sure, he didn't throw at the combine. What an ultimate sin. But you warm up a guy. You warm him up. You get him comfortable. Man, they say you don't want to compete here. I mean, what do you say to people that say? I mean, there's ways. The dude just came out and said, "Are you afraid to compete?" What? Don't even get me started on the kid running around asking about flat Earth and are pigeons real. That's a whole other story, Bloom. But I'm like, okay, amateur hour. I thought Caleb Williams handled himself enough for being at the podium, better than Marvin Harrison Jr. Anyway, I thought it was interesting, and well, it's the only thing we got to see from Caleb Williams, who is the number 1 pick.
And what's going to be interesting about this, Cease, is that Caleb Williams, and we will, I think, in terms of a scientific way of looking at all this, he is the first quarterback who really completely came up in the era when you could transfer, when as a college quarterback, you could really call the shots in your career and make a lot of money and decide to play in a big market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, a la some other quarterbacks, Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace. Dwayne Haskins comes up where you start to also hear about this at this time of your Cease. The father is too involved. You never hear about the mother's too involved. The father is too involved, and teams are a little wary of that. So what's interesting about Caleb Williams, I think, has nothing to do with football. And when you're taking someone number 1 overall, making them the face of your franchise and tying your career to them, I think it's reasonable to be nitpicky or to really focus on some of the mental, spiritual, emotional parts of the quarterback position and not so much the quarterback playing parts of the position. And that's where a lot of the discussion I saw of Caleb Williams was last week.
Yeah, that's what we got to see from Caleb Williams there. And as we look more towards the scouting combine, Bloom, it doesn't really change anything for me. I was asked on whatever show, I'm sorry. I was asked, like, you sound like you like JJ McCarthy more. Well, it didn't move my grade on him. So overall, I think maybe we should have started the show out this way. I apologize, Bloom. The combine really isn't meant to move your grade. It's meant for medicals. And also, I'll put on a tinfoil hat for this one, Bloom. Why did we know about Penix's medicals so fast?
Right.
Like so fast. That's very rare. Usually there's a combine checkup. What is it? I don't know when it is. Beginning of April, I believe.
Recheck, yeah.
And we are just left kind of wondering what medicals are like. I did hear some buzz, which I will not mention, about other players and their medicals not being as good. But it was just interesting to me. And it was Rappaport that reported it. So, solid reporting, whatever. But I also know agents will tell you anything. So it was just weird. I'm glad Penix report were good. But it was just kind of odd we heard it so fast.
Yeah. What can we say, Cease, again and again and again? Anytime you hear something, you consume the information and with a healthy sense of skepticism, still place it in your database of things to consider, but also consider, why is this information getting out and who's putting it out there? And that, when it comes to quarterbacks especially, is something we need to put emphasis on, because there are attempts on both sides to manipulate the draft stock. And again, it only takes one. So you can say, well, come on, teams are doing all their own intel, or they're using these shared intel sources, whatever makes it to the public consumption level. Well, no team is actually foolish enough to be swayed like that. Who's listening and watching? The owners. Yeah. So especially when you hear certain owners are getting involved in the process. So absolutely, we should be taking stock of these things that can affect draft stock and ask, why was it so negative about Michael Penix leading up to the combine? Why is it so positive? The truth falls somewhere in between. But I think, Assis, if we can just abstract again from the specifics and say, I would almost at this point rather have a quarterback in the late first round than in the early first round, because you're going to have a fair shot to be developed slowly, have reasonable expectations when you do play from the team, from the owner, from the fans. And that should set Penix up for success. And maybe you go to a playoff team also at the end of the first round, and you have a better structure around you, which we know also affects how these quarterbacks' careers go.
Yes, it's all about fit, the dirty secret in the NFL. And with these quarterbacks, I mean, it's eye of the beholder, except for Caleb Williams, and I'll throw in Jayden Daniels there as well. Doug Farrar, our dear friend from USA Today, has Jayden as his number one quarterback. Got to watch film with him before the Heisman presentation. So Doug shared some stories there, as he always does, which was fantastic. I will say this. Bo Nix is a robot. He's an angry robot. So I kind of like that, right? His questions, he comes from the Kirk Cousins line of press conferences where he's just going to give you, vanilla. That's it.
Okay.
But that was Bo Nix. But Bo Nix on the field, it was Penix or Bo Nix who had the best day throwing. And I will say, and this is where the combine drills become important for me, because I didn't see JJ McCarthy at the Senior Bowl, obviously. But you get to see these guys on the same field doing the same thing, and you can tell who's got a live arm. Bo Nix has a flipping live arm. So does Bazooka Joe from Tennessee. But with him, it's just all about control. And where's the ball going to go? I don't know. I know it's going to go far. It's going to look pretty when he does it. But with Nix, Bloom, depending on what you like as your quarterback, Nix, who does have first round tools, Nix, cemented himself, I would say, in that top 12 range.
I think that, again, acquired taste, or depends on what teams are looking for. And glass half full, glass half empty, right? Well, all Bo Nix did at Oregon was throw screen passes. Who cares what his numbers were? Glass half empty, glass half full. Bo Nix in a new offense got ramped up right away and was extremely effective. So he's a malleable, moldable lump of clay for whatever his next offensive coordinator is going to ask. And like you said, Cease, arm talent, that's important. And I think there are probably teams that like the idea of a quarterback who's just not interested in playing the media game, just not interested in playing it. I'm focused on the game, man. I'm all about that business. I'm all about that action, boss. So I like that. But I do think, to your larger point about watching the combine and seeing who did well, I'm noticing more intelligent conversation about the combine. One of the things I really liked was the gauntlet drill, that they're monitoring speed through the gauntlet, right? What's your speed? That's a closer measure of game speed than all these 40 times. That's why 40 time doesn't correlate well wide receiver to success in the NFL. So I'm noticing more intelligent conversation, even about JJMcCarthy, where you're looking at specific throws, throwing, like you said, outside, throwing specific routes, throwing to his left, throwing to his right, and then how that compares to what we've seen on tape. The last thing I had, since you talked about Bazooka Joe, is I just want to put it out there that I hope a team drafts him and has a special package play. You can have special package plays for Taysom Hill. Why not for Bazooka Joe? Why not for the guy who can actually force the deep safety to play off of the screen, 25 yards off the line of scrimmage, and then you call a draw play?
Ha! It's a thing of beauty. Like I said, you may not know where Milton's throwing it, but he's throwing it far, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
He's also able to handle the complexities of an offense because he had multiple systems that he ran with. So there you go. Bloom, I was in a foul mood this morning, as you could tell. I have a trip to the DMV, everybody.
Well,
So, like, let's go stand in line for half an hour. I even have an appointment. But anyway, thank you for improving my mood.
Sure. It's the NFL. It's Chris Mortensen. It's the spirit of Chris Mortensen. Smile.
Yeah.
We did a spot. One of the neat things about coming to visit you in Denver, when you were established in Denver radio and I was just Sigmund Bloom, I'm still just Sigmund Bloom, was we got to do a spot with Mort in studio, which was a big wow moment for me, for sure. And I think we would be remiss if we went this 20 minutes without just mentioning his name, honoring his memory, making sure people understood that it has nothing to do with what he did as a football reporter. It was as a human being and the impression that he left on everybody. And see, that's the thing. We end up encountering some of these people that they touch everybody, that they, like, 5 minutes is enough for them to have a life-changing interaction. And I feel fortunate that getting to do this, knowing you, that I had a chance to share some space and time with him for just a little bit.
Well, and I'm sure you saw Daniel Jeremiah and his reaction. I mean, that's just so real because DJ's a real one and he's so good. And that's the cool thing about, we've got some really, really good people. Saw Emery Hunt, you know what I mean?
Right
like
on.
Emery is one of my favorites. Tehran, TD, always one of my favorites. Lance Zierlein would give you the shirt off your back.
Yeah.
Right. Lance has been so caring with me during my radio career. And to see Daniel Jeremiah's reaction, upon having to continue working.
Right.
And that's something I think, Bloom, we can all take away from, like, okay, it's, you're down, you're out. What would Mort want you to do?
Yeah. As he said, he would punch me in the face if I didn't come out and work today, because he loved this game so much and he wanted to share that, and he wanted everybody to share in that love and enjoyment, which I think is one of the things that inspired us to start this show, was just sharing our love of the game, glory to the game. And I think that, again, it's a beautiful thing that this profession, I think there's certain people that it has drawn in that would have had that effect on people around them, no matter what they did.
All right. That is a wrap for today's edition of The Odd. We'll be back on Thursday, and more talk. Wasn't just about quarterbacks at the combine. There's more talk coming up. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you heard my question of Marshawn Lloyd. You want me to tell you what it was?
No. What?
I said, Marshawn, at the Senior Bowl, I said, you're the best back in this draft. Tell me why I'm right.
Yeah. You got a new fan, Cecil Lammey.
It was just a different way to ask something. Again, you got to do something. Some of those questions. Whew. Could you land a plane? What? Okay. All right. Super Bowl media night, I'll allow that. People run around Dr. Seuss hat or whatever, but like combine? No. Anyway. He's Sigmund. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying, sorry for being grumpy, everybody.
And hi, Carrie. Your
And
sister's
hi,
here.
Carrie. Yes, that's right. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?